Ladies and gentlemen, we have someone with us today whom you would recognize instantly if you followed this news item from Economic Times edition of 15th of April 2025, which reported, and I quote, the private equity firm, the private equity arm rather, of the investment bank Goldman Sachs has completed the acquisition of majority stake in Gurgaon-based HR software as a service SaaS firm PeopleStrong for around $130 million or about rupees 1200 crores, unquote. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today the founder of PeopleStrong, Pankaj Bansal. Pankaj, it's been a while since that news came out, and a lot of things have happened since then, like the India-Pakistan clashes, no less. How are the things settling down at your end at PeopleStrong?
Thank you, Prashant. Namaste, friends, and wonderful to be on this conversation. I have avoided most of the conversations since the deal happened, but my life, I will say that changed in more than one ways. I think it has been an emotional journey whenever you bring a child to its adulthood and you pass it on. So you have that emotional dissonance that happens within you, but that's what happened with every parent. So I guess I'm very happy to see the child doing well and in safe hands. And not only that, my colleague Sandeep Chaudhary, who's taking it forward, is a great leader. So I'm really looking forward to the next part of journey. Albeit I'll be sitting in the audience and the loudest cheerleader of People Strong, cheering for them. I continue to get busy with my fund called Carrot Capital, which is investing in jobs and electric vehicles mobility. And I work on Karmyogi Bharat, which is Prime Minister's initiative for capacity building for civil servants. So these are the two things which keeps me busy.
Awesome. And you founded PeopleStrong in 2005, I believe, after having worked in Hughes Software Systems and later Flexronic Software Systems for a little over 4 years from December of 2000 to December of 2004. Please tell us if what you learned at Hughes and Flexronic Software is what leapfrogged you into starting PeopleStrong, or was it the frustration of something you couldn't do and which you wanted to do that led to your leaving Hughes and starting PeopleStrong?
So let me answer it in two buckets. Firstly, um, point of frustration. I think it wasn't there because I got offer of 3x of salaries when I was in use, 3x from the best of the brands from NCR region. But I had told this to my then boss and teams that I will never leave Hughes unless Hughes fire me. Right. So I love the company so much. But I also promised them and told them I'll leave Hughes the day I start my journey. You can check with my colleagues, my team, and my boss. This was my standard thing. I always said I'll leave Hughes only for entrepreneurship and not for another job. And I'm glad that I could maintain that. So I loved every bit. Second part is that what it gave me, I think a large part of the credit that I will give was to Hughes. Hughes told me my basic principles of people management. Hughes was known for its HR practices, its people practices. And I got them enough ingrained in my character, right? Be it the compensation practices, performance, learning, which I was leading. There are so many things that I learned from Hughes. Within that, they allowed me to be on the board of the company, which was just starting up at that time, right? So Hughes gave me that flexibility as an employee. It took them 60 days to give me an approval, but they gave me an approval way back in 2004 that kind of paved the way for me to become an entrepreneur. So I think this is what I learned. And lastly, what I loved about Hughes is that you could walk up to the line guys, push them. You can walk up to HR teams, ask for what you want to do. When the customer visits used to happen, my then MD Arun Kumar used to take us in the meeting, and my then boss Adesh Goel, who was the CHRO, used to take me in the meetings and say, "Okay, you present." I remember presenting it to a customer very proudly, the whole learning system we had built. So that kind of an exposure gave me wow moments and confidence that I can build on mine. So that's been my huge journey until date. Whatever HR principles I've learned in life and I promote are still coming from use, and they're still relevant, timeless.
Excellent. And you've partially answered my next question, but I'll ask nevertheless. So, coming to a Hughes Flextronics journey, do you think the culture which you must have imbibed at Hughes and Flextronics acted as a catalyst in your entrepreneurial saga at PeopleStrong? I suppose the answer is what you've already given. But equally so, do you think, and we must, ponder over it a little bit because it might be instructional. Do you think that some things that you learned at Hughes Flextronics as an employee, culture-wise or skill-wise, that actually acted as a drag for you while starting and building your own company?
No, so only thing that I had to unlearn was that a bit on compensation part. That in Hughes we used to follow ranges, etc., right? Salary ranges. We said pay for parity. I remember those principles even now, right? Pay for parity. But but when I implemented in early days of startup, I had to unlearn that you pay what you can, what the person is ready to come at. So I remember my first senior leader came at a higher salary than me because he said his family, given situation, he wanted more salary. So I said, you can't follow structures and grades at this stage of time, right? So that's the only thing I will say I had to readjust. All other principles, like how you develop people, how will you let go? You taught me if you at all fire a person, how will you fire? I think that's the best thing I learned. How will you do it in the most human approach? It taught me how to do induction, which I used to lead, how you induct people. And till I left PeopleStrong, we had the learning culture induction program that I used to conduct for many years. The first induction talk used to be mine. So I think that I learned because Arun Kumar used to walk in. Adesh used to take sessions, or my colleagues from line used to take sessions. At PeopleStrong, our compensation sessions were taken by line people. So I had so much that I have imbibed and implemented that I can't tell you. My advisors at PeopleStrong have been Gautam Brahma, who helped us in so many things. My initial systems, Indrajit Sen, who came and helped us in HR. Adesh, of course, as a board member, and many roles that he played for me. So I think there are so many people. I remember Vinod Sood being the first amongst the first customers who gave me Hughes Steak business. So I think my list can go on and on to the business.
Excellent. And on that note, please tell us how you actually started People Strong in 2005. Were you preparing for this while you were still at Hughes? You mentioned the 60 days. Or is it that you started from scratch when you left Hughes Flexronic
So
Software?
after leaving Hughes Prashant, it became very critical for me to figure out what is to be done. I was thinking in a different context. I was part of an incubator and I was thinking what to do. And I remember it was very surreal, Prashant. Shelly and I were in touch. And I one day told Shelly that this is the plan I'm writing. She helped me in writing a plan. And we looked at 10K reports of US. I saw companies' revenue equivalent to Reliance revenue at that time. HR companies. I was shocked. I said, how is that possible that an HR company having a revenue equivalent to Reliance in India, right? At that time. And then I realized, oh my God, there are publicly traded companies, about 30 at that time in US in HR space. India had none. Naukri had not gone public. And my idea was, can we build an HR enterprise that can scale? Contrary to the belief that HR companies in India don't scale, this category doesn't exist. And I told Shelly, she was excited. She said, I also want to be a part of journey. I said, but I don't have money. So whenever I'll let you know. And one fine morning, she's been discussing like for a few weeks. And one fine morning, what I see is at the gate of my Deegan office in Supermart, I see Shelly standing with the bag. I said, hey, how come you are here in the morning? She said, no, I've come here to start People Strong because we had given the name, etc. So I said, means what? She said, I have resigned and today's my first day. And for a moment, I just felt breathless because my biggest tension was how will I pay? Because I had no idea. I knew her financial status, mine. We were limited, right? We were earning salaried employees. And then we sat for a coffee. I tried to convince her to go back. She said, no, there's no going back. We are starting. And that's how People Strong started. It was a very well thought through plan. Shelley's bravado of pushing me to start or press the button. That's how People Strong started. Got the bit of capital, and then my angels came in, which included the then CHROs like Raja Varadarajan, who was at Wipro Spectramind, Adesh, his brother Kamesh Goyal, who's now the Digit founder, uh, kind of people who just walked in and said, okay, we are ready to fund. And that's how PeopleStrong came into being, and that's how it got started. In March of 2006 was the ideal launch, I will say, of PeopleStrong.
What a wonderful story, Pankaj. Now, in a moving post on LinkedIn after People Strong was acquired by Goldman Sachs, you wrote, amongst other things, the following hashtag Shelly. I miss you the most today. There would have been no People Strong or Pankaj Bansal without you. I hope this brings a smile to your face wherever you are. The world is not the same without you, but the show goes on. Now, Pankaj, for those of us who don't know you personally, can you please explain these words? Can you introduce Shelly to us and what role did she play in building of People Strong and I dare say in building of Pankaj Bansal?
So this is one subject where I still get emotional in a happy way. So I think Shelly was a friend, like her family and my family. We stays just like next hours to each other. But in your formative years, someone stands with you, used to fight almost every day, and it was less pleasant conversations, more fights, but all operating from a deepest point of trust, which has transformed into faith, right? That's the word I will use. And when you have that faith, there are no veils between you. You are talking your mind. The most vulnerable zones, I used to tell her that I don't know how to do this. Am I the best or not? Can I deliver? Etc. Etc. So I think that was Shelly for me. In all good, bad, ugly times, she stood like a rock. All critical decisions of PeopleStrong were taken. I unfortunately or fortunately became the face because Shelly was an introvert. She said, "You be the out person, I'll be the person inside." And so people knew me. People knew, of course, Shelly. So that's how she played that role. She was the founder. She was the foundation stone. And I will say the strong in PeopleStrong was Shelly. So that's how she was. And losing her in 2020 made it very hard for me to go to PeopleStrong office. So I remember 2020 when Shelly passed away, I had already got Sandeep Chaudhary because I knew she was not keeping well. And my transition started the way Shelly left the office. I just couldn't walk into office. I used to walk into office, Prashant, and feel emotional about it. Though I'm a Gita believer, I teach Gita, but I think this is one thing which took me a while to cross over, right? So it was buddy. We used to fight. We used to joke. Sometimes he used to tell me that I'm a girl. You forget you joked with me like a boy. So I said, yeah, we are. For me, gender doesn't matter when it comes to you. So that's the role she played in my life, and I'm sure she's listening and happy and seeing us from there. So that's Shelly for you and everyone. And thank you everyone for their wishes and everyone who's listening. And thank you, Shelly.
Thanks, Pankaj, for answering this. I know it requires a lot of courage since you feel so emotional about the subject. So I applaud you for that. Uh, but well, let's come back to People Strong. When you started the company, one of the biggest challenges for any founder is to get the funding. So how did you get funding, especially because the area was unknown? And how did you go about recruiting people for that?
So I think I will answer this in three pointers. Pointer number one is there are friends, family, and fools who trust you. So, right, so I walked into people who had seen me hustling around. I used to work very actively in HR body called National HRD Network. So many senior HR leaders had seen me doing that work. And when I carried the vision, they trusted me, the names that I took earlier. Right. So that is what was the first part. And I knew that no one else had raised capital to this magnitude in HR in India at that time. So that helped me to create an angel category in HR. You're getting my point? There was no angel in HR before that. Probably Naukri.com and Mafoy was the two brands that you would have heard, but true angel checks we had got at that time. So that was one idea which worked. And thanks to those family, friends, and fools who helped us. Thankfully, it was only friends and my mentors. No family money came, no fools money came. So only my mentors ended up investing in me. So that's the first time. Second part was because I had little bit of credibility, little bit of foolishness, and I had Shelly with me. I had a very credible roster of angel investors. So people started looking at us that, okay, they're doing something which is not like just fly by night operator. And 2006 was not a fashionable time to do things. And we ended up getting some people from my past employers or from my known network. And people ditched us also. People cheated us also at that time. All those things happened. I'm not getting into them. But the most unique hiring that I have ever done was basis gut. And that's when I realized that our scriptures tell us to follow our gut, our intuition, but we are very poor at it. So, like Devashish Sharma, who's now the CEO and founder of Tag, my other company, I met him in an elevator. If I'll tell anyone, no one will believe. At the reception, and within 5 minutes, I said, "Wow, what are you doing?" He said, "I've come here for this." I said, "Forget it. Why don't we work together?" And he had no answer. I had no answer. But in the first 60 seconds, we both knew that we were going to work together. That was 2006, and this today it's 2025. With God's grace, we are together. Like that, we have done many hirings since then, and I've been very, very lucky. So intuition is the key. That's my second bullet answer to this.
Awesome. And it seems to have worked out well for you and People Strong. But please tell us, what is the HR tech in a SaaS model, and how is it different than how HR was being handled in India, let's say before the concept of HR tech, which you brought in 2005?
So, in true senses, till 2014 or 2013, 14, I will say, the whole HR SaaS that we built, which was the first HR cloud platform at scale, it was only backend. We had not exposed it to customers because no one was ready to buy. I remember we walked into the cyber hub. At that time, it was not this pretty. It had bad roads. Roads used to choke in Gurgaon. Prashant, if you remember the cyber hub of those days. And we walked into a customer meeting, very well-known brand, and their CIO and many team members. So one of them asked us, and my CTO was in that meeting, Vishal Saha. And one of the person asked that, okay, tell you are building this cloud system. So what will happen when it rains? And for a minute, I didn't know what to answer. Shelly looked at me, and my CTO was like flabbergasted. And we somehow handled the meeting. When we walked out, my CTO said we should shut down the company. I said, why? He said, people are asking questions, so we are far away from cloud. And we really thought that we are at the wrong place because we were not big enough to educate market, Prashant. And as luck would have it, Prashant, next month onwards, we saw IBM and Microsoft doing hoardings around cloud. So suddenly we realize cloud is being publicized by the players who have deep pockets, and sooner or later it will help us. So we'll continue to build, but as a backend. That's what happened. And 2014-15, when SAP and Oracle were the only two options, Prashant. If you remember, those were the only two ERPs that people used to consider credibly, little bit Ramco in India. That's when we thought it's an opportunity, and we raised capital from multiples. We were a well-known brand. Loomis Partners had come in. PeopleStrong was known in the HR community. We said we will expose it to market. And we started winning customers. And once we replaced one traditional ERP, suddenly people started saying, okay, cloud solutions will work. It was very heavy, Prashant. I remember spending more than a crore in a conference where we gave Economic Times ad and went into the conference and put the newspapers there to give confidence. It was an HR tech conference of People Matters, which I was an investor at that time at. And I told People Matters do this conference, and the founder, the then founder, Esther Martinez, and now Pushkar are doing a great job. So they said, okay, we'll build this category. So we all, it takes a whole village. So People Matters did that part. We did this part. Professional bodies like NHRD and SHRM came. CHROs got together. So everybody started rooting for it. And we said, beyond a traditional ERP, there'll be PeopleStrong and players like PeopleStrong who will build. That's how HR tech story got built up. Sorry for a long answer, but you asked a question which deserved a long answer.
And please give us long answers. We want to listen to you and
Yeah,
get inspired by you.
yeah,
So, coming to the
yeah.
acquisition itself, on the 15th of April 2025, when Goldman Sachs acquired the majority stake in PeopleStrong, or at least when it was reported, you said the following, and I quote: when we started, HR SaaS wasn't even a recognized category in India. There was a clear gap in the market. We chose the long road, building our technology while educating the ecosystem along the way, unquote. So, you partially answered that, but do you remember some other stories like the cloud story where you were educating the people about HR SaaS and what it took you to educate the ecosystem for this?
So I think one story I shared with you of cloud, but I think biggest was the spending money, right? That's the hardest thing. So probably the best thing we did is we changed our suit. What do I mean by that? We retained a branding agency. They're very well known Itu Chowdhury firm, IECD. And I told them that I want to stand with traditional ERPs, but I should look smart enough, right? My then brand image was red and black color, etc., etc. I said, make me look like a big boy when I stand in that big boys club, right? Sorry, I'm not being um, racist or gender specific, but I'm using it in gender agnostic sense that when I stand in that big league, can I look at least representable? And believe me, I never knew the power of brand. We changed our brand identity, which is not just logo design. How we should talk, how should we breathe, how should we look at it? We look at the brand prism for the first time. We said, who will be seen as PeopleStrong users? Who will be seen the friends of user? How will a user of PeopleStrong will flaunt? So I spoke to the customers and they said, you know what? We are not working on traditional ERPs. We are on a cloud platform, and we are on a cloud platform called PeopleStrong. So when people used to say that, we realized, okay, that's the way our brand is moving ahead. So it was the hardest thing. But imagine that branding exercise costed us money. That conference we walked in costed us money. And I remember a Hindi movie song. We said, "Raste meri baheं, wadiyan mera daman, jao mere siwa tum kahan jaoge." Right. So We just were in that mode that let the whole market be enveloped by that cloud in HR is here and it's going to stay. We started seeing competition sprouting up. Others started getting funding. Of course, we were not feeling too good as an entrepreneur, but as a category builder, we had to make sure that that happens. And when that happens, you've seen how it helped the country. There is no one. There are many players now, but this happened. So I'm very happy, glad that whenever the HR Tech story will be written down, People Strong and the leaders of People Strong will be appreciated for that. And I thank each one of them. But most importantly, the customers who took that bet. And I hope we lived up to most of them, if not all of them, is all I can say. So it's a good fun ride. I will do it 10 times again. And since then, Prashant, I have fallen in love in category building. Even in my fund at Carrot Capital, I think single thesis that my other two partners, Project Raut and Karan, is building it up is build category leaders, back entrepreneurs who are building categories. That's what I'm fascinated about.
Awesome. And you look so awesome in your lovely dapper dress. And are you usually dressed up like this? You look like a prime minister or some state personality and so on. You usually dress up like this, or you dress up for the occasion?
So see, I tell you, Prashant, when you have lack of content, this fills it up for it. Secondly, I'm in the business of raising capital all the time. Now I'm at the fund, right? So jaisa des वैसा भेस, right? In our world, in the VC private equity world, formal suits is the way of going. But I don't like ties, and anyway, ties are going out of fashion. But the last many years, I have wore collars like this, which are Indian collars, very traditional, I think, and I like to dress up like that because I'm dressing up not for myself, but for the company that I represent, the brand that I carry. I remember, and I'll not name the large BPO. I was in Mumbai. I remember I was relatively young. I was probably 30 years, and Shelly was even younger. We were sitting in a room, and the CHRO walked out. He didn't know us. And he said, yeah, I have called people, but I'm not sure. I'm very busy. His secretary told us that he's saying he's busy. I said, please check if he has time for a quick coffee of 10 minutes. We can meet. We have come from Delhi. He has given us time. So I saw him walking out of the room. And, he just gave a look. I was dressed in a suit. Shelly was dressed up well. And I seriously feel that first 5 seconds, people make impression, unfortunately, of what you're wearing. I'm not telling that is the way, but since you asked this question, I tell this to salespeople that you cannot uh, represent your brand by not being appropriately representing your brand. It includes everything: your persona, your language, your etiquettes, your clothing, everything. So I'm dressed up for that. Today I've been doing meetings. On an average, I do 6 meetings a day, out of which three are external. So I dress up. Otherwise, when I'm relaxed, I wear kurtas and jeans. So that's what I wear.
Excellent. And I must say that you're looking dapper, and we're
Thank you.
having a feast. We're having a feast. So no lack of content, content loaded with all the looks. I think is just a perfect setting. So thanks for that. But coming back to the People Strong. So you worked at People Strong for more than 19 and a half years from 2005 till recently in 2025. Let me remind the viewers that you are the founder of People Strong. It is your baby. And now when the takeover has happened by Goldman Sachs, you have been, and please forgive me for asking that, what appears to be is that you have been sidelined as a part time board member. First of all, what is meant by a part time board member? And are you really done with People Strong and have nearly moved on in life?
So thank you for asking the question, Prashant. I think as a ex-Hughes colleague, we can ask whatever we wish to. But there's nothing called sidelines. So I had stopped playing in executive roles since Shelly left. I was there, enabled Sandeep to take on from me, handed over the baton. Devashish, who took over, tagged VBox, which we sold to ETS. VBox was the third company within People Strong Group. So every TOEFL test today has VBox technology, which was People Strong company. And now it's part of ETS, which owns TOEFL. So I feel very proud of that. So I had 21 and I had reduced my involvement because, as I told you, I used to find it to go to People Strong very hard. And memories of Shelly used to haunt me a bit, right? Because I was not probably matured enough to deal with it, right? It happened too suddenly for me. Um, so I had started taking a backseat. In 2022, I had started my own fund, which is I am now running in the avatar called Carrot Capital, CARET, which means exponentiation, the raise to power sign. is called carrot. So I had done that, but Sandeep, Devashish, everyone kept me involved. I was titled Group CEO, where my main role was a bit on the investor side and bit on evangelizing PeopleStrong. Those are the two things I did. All the offsites I used to conduct, that was my deal. I used to spend almost 2 days a month to PeopleStrong. So this was a clear understanding that my responsibility from an investor perspective ends with Renuka, which was Multiple's founder. She had put in large capital at that time. So once this deal happens, I will not be there as an executive role. And I offered Goldman Sachs that I can take a complete non-exec, just I'll keep some shares there, which I've still kept, and I'll be out. But they insisted for me to be on the board for a while. So I said I'll gladly do because it is the baby that I've seen growing into an adult. And I see people strong with very beautiful, fond memories. It will never do anything. Kuch bhi ho jaye, this will remain the company that my heart will always beat for. And that's what it means for me. So not nothing of sideline, not at all.
And if I take your attention back to the Economic Times report from the 15th of April 2025, it said the following. According to TrackXN, Multiples PE held 84.3% stake in PeopleStrong, that's before the takeover, followed by the employee stock option ESOP pool, towards which 9.7% of the shares are allocated. The company's founder, that's you, holds 2% stake, while the remaining is held by the early backers and the angel investors. So, my question to you is, do you think that over the course of 19 and a half years, how come you ended up with a paltry 2% shareholding in the company? Do you regret diluting your stakes so much that I dare say that you reduced your stature from being a founder to a high end employee of the company called People Strong? Please tell us the story behind your stake dilution.
So look at it in three parts. Firstly, media reports are media reports. So don't follow them 100%. They can never get 100% correct, right? So that's the first thing. So broadly, they can be right, but not completely they can be right. So that's one part. I will not comment beyond that on that media report. But uh, I will say that quite a few things were not probably up to the mark, right? But I don't hold it against them because they've reported broadly, which is fair. Second part is, um, you know, dilution is normal, but lack of capital is terminal, right? And that I learned at an early stage. How does it matter how much you've diluted? I came from a humble background in Kalkaji one room set. So where I stand today, I think I would have never imagined that generational wealth can be built by a person who come from this kind of a background. So I am very, very happy with what happened. If you tell me to do it again, I'll do it exactly the same way again. Because the I don't know what word to use, but the plight of a founder when you're building a category is that you're not thinking of yourself. You're thinking of the category. And when you build a category, you need to take investors, teams, customers along with you to build it up. You remember NASCOM days? Devang Mehta, I don't know if the audience will now recall, but what he did for Indian IT industry, right? Don't you think it was category building stuff? Indian IT became a star child on the global maps. Similarly, when you're building category, do you really care? Did I make 30 crores or 100 crores? I'm sure it doesn't matter. You will just remember me as the founder who created a category or helped the category build along with my colleagues. Right? I was not the only person, I became the face of it. So it doesn't matter how much who will make. But from a reward perspective, I think I've got so much I couldn't have asked for more, be it in absolute capital, be it in equity, be it in credibility, and most importantly, my learning today. I think I feel so complete in myself that my confidence always remains very high. And this definition that my spiritual teacher told me, I think I have understood it now. It says I plus X is equal to happy Pankaj. I means I, X means my desires. They keep changing. Sometimes you want X, sometimes you want Y, but they keep changing every 3 months, 1 year, 6 years is equal to happy Pankaj, right? So we say if Pankaj gets this, Pankaj will be happy. But that's not the correct equation because X is changing. Are you with me, Prashant? So if you drop the
Absolutely.
X, if you drop the X, then what you're left with, the equation is I is equal to happy Pankaj. So the definition is that we should live out of completeness, not for completeness. That's one of my spiritual teachers told me, and that's how I look at it. And again, I say, okay, you can hold on to equity, but what will you do with a full watermelon, which is which is just worth like 1 crore. Vis-a-vis, if you create something which is probably 2,000 crores and built a category, you own a small pie, isn't that enough for you? And there are 120 people probably along with you who are going to create capital. So that's how I answer it. Now, there are no rights and wrongs. If somebody says that my model is to own 100%, all power to them. There are models people have succeeded, but that's my answer.
Awesome, the way you brought in spirituality into this transaction, but this transaction still practically gave you multiple tens of crores. I would say, give or take 30 to 40 crores officially. So, what does it feel like to be rich? And tell us, how do you spend your money on a day-to-day basis? And on a more serious note, we want to know what are your money and investment habits.
So, three questions you asked, let me answer in three parts. So, first is that being rich is a mindset, right? I really feel, and I keep joking that कुछ लोग अमीर होते हैं, कुछ रईस होते हैं, right? So I thought जब मेरे पास इतना ज्यादा पैसा नहीं था, तब भी I think I used to live like a king कि कल आ जाएंगे और होंगे तो. I was never short. I could pay the school fee of my child. I could take care of my parents. I could take care of every guest who came to our home. कबीर का दोहा है, इतना दीजिए प्रभु जितना घर में समाए, मैं भी भूखा ना रहूं और मेरा गेस्ट भी भूखा ना जाए. तो आई विल जस्ट से उतना हमेशा था. तो आई नेवर फेल्ट दैट आई डोंट हैव इनफ. हाँ, ये जरूर होता था इम्पैक्ट क्रिएट करना, राइट? सो नंबर वन, सो माई डेफिनेशन ऑफ रिच इज वेरी डिफरेंट बिकॉज इट कम्स फ्रॉम कॉन्फिडेंस एंड स्माइल. अगर मैं अपने आप को वो सारा काम कर पा रहा हूँ प्रशांत, एंड दैट्स द समरी ऑफ भागवत गीता दैट आई हैव लर्नड एंड आई टीच अ बिट. तो वन लाइन दैट आई समराइज भागवत गीता अकॉर्डिंग टू मी सक्सेस, एंड ये मेरे को काफी वक्त लगा इस लाइन पर पहुंचने में. माय सन यूज्ड टू आस्क मी अ क्वेश्चन, इफ आई हैव टू ट्वीट कैन यू टेल मी वन लाइन, एंड आई हैव कोटेड दिस ऑप्शन. आई कॉल इट doing what ought to be done. And the book that I'm writing is going to be titled the same way, Doing What Ought to Be Done. I'm writing it with another colleague called Tanvi. So doing what ought to be done is a very hard thing, Prashant. It means when you get up, if you have to exercise, you exercise. When you're with family, you're with them. When I'm interviewing, I'm here. When I'm working, I'm completely in it. You're sucking out the maximum from that moment you are in. If you're dancing, you're dancing. When you're with friends, you're with friends. When you eat, you're just eating. You're not on your phone. So that doing what is ought to be done is the hardest thing. And if you can do that with consciousness, that is success to me. Right? So for me, success is doing what ought to be done. सही चीज सही वक्त पर आप कर रहे हो, तो doing what ought to be done. So that's success for me. Number two, what do I do with this capital? I have not changed my standards of living. I think they were nice and they're nice too. I'm still in the same home. I don't need a bigger home because already 5 कमरों से ज्यादा आप क्या करेंगे? There is mom, dad. I have a help who's like family, my son, my wife. So I have enough big home. I have a few cars like everyone has in my kind of uh, upper middle class, rich, whatever you want to call. But still, my favorite car is Thar, which is not a very expensive car from the market standards. I have premium car also, but that's my favorite car. So I enjoy car not basis the price tag, but what it gives to me. It gives me fun and joy, so I use it for that. Third and last part that you asked, the investment habits. So when people come to me and say invest in mutual funds, I do, but my wife manages. I don't enjoy money management. Though I'm a VC, so people don't want to hear this from me, but I give them an answer and I say I invest in the highest risk category. It's called startup, where the mortality is high, where the returns are hard to bring in. So when I'm invested in that category, I don't need anything else. So whatever I have made in life, more than enough, at least for my generation, is because of startups. So I still invest in them. I will continue to invest in them. If you give me 100 rupees and say, where will you put it? I'll put it only in startups. My wife manages it for herself and family. I invest every last dollar in a startup that I can. And startup also in two areas, as I've figured it out. One is jobs, which can create jobs. Second is electric vehicles, because my target is to create 10 million jobs for Bharat and reduce 10 metric million ton of carbon reduction, which is what my partners Karan and Project are committed to it. So I remain very focused on that. That's my investment habit.
Awesome, and thanks for answering it so candidly. So the founder makes the money, multiple PE makes the money, but it was also reported by ET that around 9.7% of the shares were in the ESOP pool. So clearly, ESOPs are a part of the culture at PeopleStrong. But the employees' shares were not bought by Goldman Sachs, were they? Neither is PeopleStrong a listed entity. So don't you think that the employees must be getting a feeling that they just have paper money? So how does an HR firm like yours deal with this HR problem at its home turf?
So this is not correct, because let me give you one principle that I've followed. When multiples came in, 20% of our stocks were bought, and many of us bought homes, paid back our loans, etc., etc. This was 2017. And I was offered that I could have diluted more because multiples was ready to give. But I said, no, whatever my team will get, I'll get the same percentage. So we, at that time, each employee got exactly same percentage that I got. Though my quantum was higher, but at least I tried to be fair what I can be. When this round happened, each employee, present or ex, there are 120 employees. By the way, a lot of people complain to me, you shouldn't have given stocks, etc. So I tell people we were a bit too liberal, but I still will propose give the stocks to as many people as you can. It can create wealth for some, it may not, but it's always a great habit to build a startup culture. So give it to them. PeopleStrong has produced so many entrepreneurs that I know, right? So we gave it to them. And this round, it's misreported if it is reported. All of us, including myself, have sold our shares in the same proportion, no differentiation. Be it the founder, be it the executives, be it any employee or ex-employee, all have part in the same category of shares. So almost 99% of us would have sold, and some shares are still in Goldman and they have topped it up further for the next term. So it can again create generational wealth for not only one, two, five, but probably multiple people over the next
Excellent.
five
So I
years.
congratulate you and I congratulate all the employees of People Strong that they worked hard and they earned it and they richly deserve it. Uh, but there was a certain portion which was reserved for the early backers and angel investors. They held the stake, let's put it like this, around 4 to 5%. So, in fact, it seems like they hold nearly 4% stake still. So, who are these early backers and angel investors? Please tell us something about them. And most importantly, if Adesh Goel, the ex-HR head from Hughes Office Systems, is one of them.
I think people like Adesh, Raja Varadarajan, people like N.S. Rajan, who came later, Dr. Santrup Mishra, they were very well-known names, and many other investors who came directly, indirectly, made, I would like to believe, made a very decent return by 2017. So all people who came in 2006, 7 to till 2014, we exited them in 2017, and they all made fairly decent money. Now, decent is a subjective thing, but I would like to believe it was decent. From 2017 to 2025, the second part started. So the 4% that was held was predominantly either a family office or like a very ultra HNI for some strategic reasons. So they made money, Prashant. So that's the 4% you're referring. They're not truly those angels who came initially. So I will remain thankful to my angels, and I hope that they were happy in 2017, and I hope that the investors will be happy in 2025. And if they're not happy, hopefully they will make the rest of the money through tagged, which is the equity still left. Please remember, the equity is not wiped out. Still there is tagged, which is left, so they will make more money through that. And employees will make money. Probably 5 years, 7 years down the line, PeopleStrong will go public, and people will make more money. So that's how it is.
Congratulations to all the early investors as well. Uh, in particular, did Adesh play a role in mentoring you at Hughes and Flextronics and later at People Strong? Please tell us something about it. And in addition, who else from Hughes or Flextronics played a significant part in your journey at People Strong?
So, firstly, Adesh, I think I will answer Adesh's involvement with me or guidance in three buckets. First, at Hughes. So, I think he was the guy for me, right? He was the go-to person for all of us, right? We used to go, especially for me in good, bad, ugly times. He used to find us ways, give us, he admired, inspired all of us, the whole HR community, not only within Hughes, but outside Hughes. So, I had a great run and time with him, and it was because of him that we did. Second role, he played like an angel investor in PeopleStrong and a board member. And that was fascinating. He helped, he supported, he opened doors, he could connect us wherever he could. And third part, when he was transitioning from Hughes to a corporate world, different because he was a lifer at Hughes after CDOT, right? So he was there for a while in an executive role, and he played that short stint, and then he went to Tata Communications, where he retired from. So that transitions, I saw him spending some time at PeopleStrong. So I saw Adesh in those three avatars. But Adesh has remained a very, very good friend, a person that has shaped People Strong in more than one ways. And I remember before he retired, he was a customer of People Strong as from Tata Communications because he was not a shareholder, so he could give business to us. And that's how I've seen Adesh. I'll remain thankful to him, to his wife and his kids also, that I've seen the family so closely, and also his spiritual interventions, which helped and aligned with us. And if I look at other people, I mentioned Gautam Brahma and Indrajit. Gautam played the role in the early days, almost telling us how to review, who can teach better than Gautam, right? So he did that. And then Indrajit came and he helped us in setting up HR. And the CHRO that he got at that time, young manager, is still the CHRO of People Strong. And other than that, as I told you, Vinod, who helped us from outside, becoming a customer and helping and guiding wherever he could. And there are so many other leaders, but we will remain thankful to Arun Kumar, who was not there, but I learned from him. Mao, who told us how to sell, right? So I used to see it from the distance, but I saw it. And so many other leaders at Hughes Software. My colleagues that came, Kiran Kumar came from Hughes Software. He's now the chief of strategy. Ritu Bhardwaj, who was part of my team in Hughes days, she's now head of transitions or onboarding, customer onboarding. And there are so many. Vikram Dheer, who was part of my team, he's the admin leader in PeopleStrong. So there are so many, countless number of people. I've been very, very lucky for that.
Awesome. And one of your mentors at Hughes, uh, told me something which might make an interesting question for you. It seems that when you were in HSS, you used to write your name as Pankaj Bansal with a small b in your surname Bansal. Now, what's the story behind that?
You should be Prashant Pai Upadhyay. So I don't know who has told you, but I can guess, I think. But I worked in government for 2 years at HUDCO as an executive assistant to the chairman, which was a great stint. I used to sit at India Habitat Center, corner office, great time. Executive assistant to a chairman gives you a lot of powers, right? Though it's a reflected glory, but as a young kid, I enjoyed that 2 years of stint at HUDCO. And I remember there was a culture of calling people Sharmaji, Guptaji, Bansalji. I never used to like it. And what I used to admire at when people used to address each other from first names, right? So I always used to like there is an equality. There was too much of a sir or G culture. G is not bad, but there was too much G generally sir के साथ आ जाता था. अरे सर बंसल सर कैसे कर रहे हैं आप सर. तो I used to don't like कि आप सर सर और मैडम क्यों बोलते हैं, right? So I said, and when I used to bring my card, people used to say Bansal Saab, and I was like 25 years probably. So I said, guys, let me write a small B. And I started writing. People said, why? I said, so that you can address me by my first name, Pankaj. I said, not that. And I kept it like that till a branding consultant came and told me, you know what? You are right in your thinking, but the message you're communicating is not going because people think it's a typo. So, Pankaj, you can't do it. So don't fight that can't happen. So I said, okay, but in Hughes, automatically people used to call us from first names, if you remember. Everyone was called by the first name. And then I carried and I dropped that small b. And that was just an idiosyncrasy of a young entrepreneur or a young lad. I think please वहीं पर हमें इसे छोड़ देना चाहिए. There is not more to it.
Okay. And I also got to learn from some of my sources that you were, and I'm sure you still are, a very punctual person. Perhaps you got it from your dad. And your being very punctual apparently led to some amusing situations, including one which involved your wedding, no less. So, request you to tell us something about these situations.
My God. No, so I think I read somewhere the problem of being on time is that there is no one else to acknowledge it. Right. So unfortunately, in India, it's very common. This is one thing used to irk me a lot. I've adjusted myself, but still I'm a time stickler. I feel we have limited time on earth. We have to make maximum of it. I still run like a clockwork. I told you doing what ought to be done. So the only way I can show respect to you, Prashant, by being on time. This is my belief. There are two ways I can show disrespect. One, I will show up late. Secondly, I will not look at you and busy on my phone when you're talking. These are the two ways we show disrespect to a child who's 5 years old and a person who may be 70 years old. And we do in these two categories the most with kids and with our seniors. So I had decided in my life that I'll try and be in the moment as much as possible and will always be on time. I saw this with most effective people in my life that they were doing. My dad, I saw he was very organized. He still is very organized, but in his working life, I saw him very organized, very, very particular on timing. He'll show up. He'll show up on the right dates. He'll remember the dates. So that's where I picked up. The funny story is, of course, like everything else, I reached on my wedding on time. And if in Indian weddings you reach on time, no one is ready. And I saw my father-in-law instructing the guys who were setting up flowers in his probably shorts and t-shirt kind of a thing that he thought that he'll go after a few minutes and change. And the band guys were getting down from the rickshaws and the cars, and none of them could believe that the groom and the barat is here. So I saw the Bangla guys started beating the drum from the rickshaw or the car because they were so stressed that the guy's there. And I walked in onto the time, and this was like I saw everyone running helter skelter. And I set the tone for Panditji. So Panditji started reading mantras very fast because I told him that this is the time for marriage. And I told him, do your mantras completely. Don't compromise, but please do it in the time and start it on the time. So I think I saw him running very fast. So there was an artificial pressure got created. That's not what I wanted to. But I just put that pressure on my Bharat. I said, I don't like our guests waiting. If you've called them to treat and take care of them, at least we should be there on time because there are weddings I go, there is no one really there other than waiters serving the food. So this will remain, but many a times I go with my wife to weddings where there is no one. So we have started adjusting by going some bit late and we eat food at home and go to the weddings to meet and bless the bride and grooms and give the gifts. That's what we do.
Wow, that was hilarious, hilarious on your own wedding. Uh, but at the end of it, a lot of people would say that you have been extremely successful. However, can you define your own version of success, and what are the things that you credit your success to?
See, I told you the definition of success, right? Doing what ought to be done. But I think true success lies in knowing who you are. I think is the hardest question that many of us don't even inquire. And sometimes we inquire, so we don't go deep enough, Prashant. So, my biggest take in life is if you leave the world by doing what you were supposed to do. So, you may have heard this like you put a ladder, you reach on top of it. And what if you realize after reaching, and many senior people come and tell me this, that this is not a wall I wanted to climb. But at 65 or 70, what will you do? You've climbed top of the ladder, you've made the money, success, everything, but the wall was wrong. So my success definition is that finding the right wall as early as you can. Like I'm very, very clear today that I have to work for the jobs in Bharat. I have to see whatever companies I can fund which can create jobs, which can create Naukri, which can create livelihoods. My investors also have the same philosophy like Michael Dell Foundation. They are also committed to it. So for me, that wall is more important than the ladder. And I'm climbing the ladder. I think I have done fairly okay, but I'll continue to climb the ladder. But I am not disappointed even if I don't reach to the top because I know my wall is right. If not in this lifetime, I'll complete in the next lifetime. So that's one definition of my success. Now, uh, what are the ingredients or who helped me? I think it starts firstly, I believe, with your spouse, which we underrate all the time, right? Because it was her when I told her that I'm going to leave Hughes Software, a decent plum salary coming in, and now I don't know where it will come from. She told me, okay, go ahead, take the plunge, right? So I give credit to her. I give credit to my parents who kept standing like a rock solid person behind me and supported me whenever required. So that whole family unit, eventually the fun and love you get from your kid, which is son in this case. So that's one part which in the hardest of times of 2018 and 2020, when I lost Shelly, they all stood with me. So that's one part. And I'm sure I'm not the only lucky one. There are so many people around us who have families who do this for them. So I hope I can repay them when my turn comes, or every day than the role that I play. Second part is my mentors or advisors or board members or teachers who have so selflessly paid to me by giving their time and advice. And Prashant, the only way we can pay back is by paying it forward. There is a SaaS body called SaaS Bhumi. Very often I've heard this phrase there, pay it forward. So I'm trying to pay it forward, Prashant, that I can do. Thirdly, my friends who don't judge me and I can be completely myself, they still consider me that stupid Pankaj, and they still blast me. They just puncture my ego if they see it anywhere. If I go with this clothing, they will just rip me apart in like few minutes. So that's the third category, and fourth is the people who are like my investor or customers. I consider that as one bucket because both of them have trusted on a paper plan, be it customer or be it my investor. I couldn't have done any of it. So there are so many stakeholders that happens. And finally, our own motherland, it's India, it's that Bharat who gave us the opportunity to do what we are doing. If I was in America, I'm not sure what I was doing. I wouldn't have been anywhere else. If you give me hazar options to step out of India, as on today on 2025, I don't want to. I don't know what future stores. Maybe I will, but today I cannot think anything beyond Bharat. I know there are problems, but there's so much that we can do for our country. This country has done so much for us. I'm deeply indebted to India. So this is where I am and enjoying this. वो एक ना
Awesome.
एक शेर है, हम ही हम हैं तो
Let's
क्या
start.
हम हैं, तुम ही तुम हो तो क्या तुम हो, राइट? चमन में बात बनती है इख्तला के रंगे बू से. इट मीन्स चमन मीन्स गार्डन, रंगे बू मीन्स कलर्स एंड फ्रेग्रेंस. चमन में इख्तलाक मीन्स अलाइनमेंट, जुड़ना. तो इफ द गार्डन हैज बोथ कलर एंड फ्रेग्रेंस देन इट बिकम्स कंप्लीट. तो चमन में बात बनती है इख्तलाक के रंगे बू से, हम ही हम हैं तो क्या हम हैं, तुम ही तुम हो तो क्या तुम हो. So every entrepreneurial journey, Prashant, is a combination of many things. I can't say it is only me. It is those leaders, 12, 15, that you are not seeing on this interview. Be it Sandeep Chaudhary, be it Prakash Rao, be it Vineet Pandita, Vishal Saha, our CTO, Rajesh Batra, Devashish Sharma, whose name I took, Kamakshi Pant. The list is endless. All those leaders who stood on those hard times, Vikas Sapra, who built our payroll, Rigant Tripathi, who got his company and merged with us. The list just continues. So many of them. We did 7 acquisitions, Prashant, and 6 of them are still with us. So that's the success ingredients. Very hard to say or pinpoint one thing, I will say.
And what would be your message to the younger people, the youth, perhaps who are there in their 20s?
So please take care of one most critical thing, which is health. आप उसे physical health कहिए या mental health कहिए. If you cannot give 90 minutes every day to yourself for physical and mental health, and mental health, I'm not saying only meditation, but I'm strongly recommending here on live that can you please chant every day? It was told to us, our parents, every master teacher who has walked earth have talked about chanting. तो कुछ तो chanting में power रही होगी. I don't know why it is out of fashion. So this platform, I tell you that I feel my day is incomplete if I don't chant. So whatever time you can do. So that's single most important कि health का ध्यान रखिए. That's first part. And second, the principle that I said, कि can you be equanimous? Can you learn, Prashant, to stand in the middle, come what may happen? There are three worst things can happen to you. Your health goes bad, your relationships go sour, right? Or your business or work goes bad or south. तीनों situations में can you remain centered? If you can remain centered, that nothing can trouble you. And this is only possible through the third point, which is if you are detached from your body. You're taking care of it because I said health as the first thing, but you are not thinking or identifying yourself as Pankaj Bansel. Then the ego doesn't come into way and you can enjoy life because then it's I is equal to happy Pankaj, the first equation that I told you. I am complete Pankaj. Can I operate from that? That's the only way I'll tell the youth to go and follow.
Excellent. And currently you're working at Carrot Capital and Tagged as a co-founder. So can you tell our viewers what Carrot Capital and Tagged are all about?
So Carrot Capital, as I mentioned in my conversation, is a fund. It's now a $50 million fund. It's our second fund, which we are investing over venture capital fund. We invest about $2 million in a company, which are either operating in creating jobs category, like Unstop, which is a career portal, or TrackCheck, which is an identity solution kind of companies, or we invested electric mobility, like EVs, which is a biking company, etc. We invest in that because it also creates a lot of job, or distribution if they are distributing things. So this is how we invest with the focus of 10 million jobs and 10 metric million ton reduction of CO2. This is what the fund is. I'm excited. We have made 25 plus investments from the first fund. In this fund, we'll make another 20 investments. So I'm really looking forwward to category builders. Or agar hum 10 million jobs create kar dete hain, we'll do 10% of Bharat's target. So that's what it is. And Tagged is India's largest recruitment process outsourcing firm. It was the first original firm that came. It means that for a large company, say like a Mahindra, they will run their end-to-end hiring process from a job description till the person comes on board. So Mahindra will not have their own teams. They will leverage tag teams to run it. The whole technology, how to make the life of a candidate easier, how to make sure that the hiring manager is successful, right? That's the thing we are doing. That's again impacting jobs. So that's what Tag does. It's rated one of the only firms from India in the ever in the metric of Everest. So that's what it does. It's run by Devashi Sharma and his team. So these are the two companies that I'm associated with directly, and many others as board member or as an investor.
Excellent. So, can you tell us what you do in life other than HR? I mean, what are your hobbies? I suspect you are into poetry or shero shairi because you mentioned in one of your LinkedIn posts, "Tera ishq main kaise chhod दूं, meri umr bhar ki talash hai." And you've been quoting during this conversation as well. So, who are your favorite poets and so forth? And if you would like to read out some of your favorite couplets or shares, request you to please regale our audience with those.
Mhm. I don't want to bore your audience, but so for me, the passion is to work for anything that I can do for Bharat. So when I got an opportunity to serve at Prime Minister's Task Force at Mission Karmyogi, I do that and I love it. It's the largest capacity building program anywhere in the world. As we speak, almost 1 crore civil servants have come onto platform. Totally, there are about 2.9 crore civil servants in India. And they have already joined the platform of Karmyogi Bharat, through which they are learning. Imagine any police personnel to a secretary of Government of India, a top IS officer, are on that platform. So that's the thing that I love and enjoy the most. I got an opportunity to serve on NEET committee, which was not a pleasant thing, but a NEET examination leak that happened, how to fix it. So I got an opportunity to serve. So that's my one part of passion. Second part of passion is on the weekend I teach Bhagavad Gita wherever I can to friends. Whatever I've learned, teach is the wrong word. I can share what I've learned in an algorithmic fashion, in a very scientific way. That's what I love. And I've done that. I'm now converting it into a book so that it can reach to now large numbers. And third is poetry. I write, I listen, but it's a very hard question who's your favorite. But if I go to lyricist side, I think the whole world flies in between Tahir Ludhianvi and Shailendra. These are the two iconic names through which the river of shires flow. And in the later generation, Javed Akhtar and Gulzar decorated it. If I go to the poetry on the other side, then I look at Khalil Gibran, which is a very philosophical poetry that he did. And on the Hindi side, when I go to Kabir, I think it's unparalleled when Kabir says, "Bada hua to kya hua, jaise ped khajur, panthi ko chaya nahi, phal lage ati dur." Right? So that kind of beautiful thing that Kabir ji wrote, right? Uh, Moko kahan dhoonde re bande, main to tere paas hai. So telling that God is within us, it's not outside. So that's beautiful. But if I look at all of them, if I add up and I have to choose that, what one poet you will choose? So I'm always split between these two. One is a Urdu poet, Ghalib, right? Ghalib is the by the way, most wrongly quoted poet on social media. 80% of the posts that you see attributed to Ghalib are not from Ghalib. Right? I want to tell people, please don't do that. I've seen even in books, authors quote Ghalib, which are not Ghalib's poetry. So the so just to explain, one couplet of Ghalib is न था कुछ तो खुदा था न होता कुछ तो खुदा होता डुबोया मुझको मेरे होने ने जो न होता मैं तो क्या होता. I know it's a play of words, but it's that ego that drives us, right? He questions that why I have been created. He's questioning the Maya world, right? So that's Ghalib. This is one poet which I love. I have full Diwan of Ghalib. I have read it hundreds of times. I love every part. There are so many that I can go on and recite. But on the other side is Tulsidas. So between these two, I get split. So I think the world class master class is Tulsidas. I suspect any poet can ever touch that level of poetic finesse, which is probably written with so much of devotion. Only, only Mira or Hanumanji as personality comes close to it, but not poetry. So when Tulsidasi says, when Lord Ram was walking It is said that when he was getting married and Sitaji was to garland him, he said that some people saw a son in him, and some people saw their king. They were very proud. And Janak saw a son-in-law, very proud. And some people who had bad intentions were very scared because they saw somebody who's going to kill them. So how he explained this? He said, "Jaki rahi bhavna jaisi, Prabhu Murat dekhi tin taisi." So everyone saw the roop they wanted to see. So next time when I see anyone that this person is bad, I remind myself there is something in me that I'm reflecting in that person. You can decide not to be in touch with someone, but before judging, keep looking at inside. So I think I can go on, but these two poets, I get always teared apart. Is it Galib or is it Tulsidas? And Tulsidas generally tops up, but Ramcharitmanas is a poetic marvel. I think it's a gift to humanity that I still love the most.
I can clearly see the passion you have for poetry, and we can probably have another podcast with you simply on this topic alone. But I have, you have been you've had a wonderful innings at People Strong, and you're going strong at Carrot Capital and Tagged, and I'm sure that that's not the end of your second innings either. So I have, a share comes to my mind. If you allow me, I can quote it, and I'll dedicate it
Please,
to you.
Irshad.
Okay, so this is from Shair Iqbal, I believe, and it goes to you, dedicated to you for all your work which you have been doing, and that is सितारों के आगे जहां
क्या के
और
जहां और
भी
भी
है,
है
सितारों के आगे
और
जहां और भी है, अभी इश्क के इम्तिहान
है क्या
और
इम्तिहान
भी है.
और भी है. बिल्कुल बहुत ब्यूटीफुल शेर है. इकबाल इज अनदर मास्टरपीस. आई थिंक उन्होंने हमें सारे जहां से अच्छा दिया है. एंड दिस इज अ वेरी वेरी ब्यूटीफुल कपलेट. सितारों के आगे जहां और भी है, यही मैं सोचता हूँ कि वो जहां खत्म नहीं होगा. एंड ऑल द व्यूअर्स हु आर लिसनिंग, एंड टू यू प्रशांत, आई जस्ट विश ग्रेट टाइम्स अहेड, peaceful times ahead, but yet very confident times for Bharat, as we find our new destiny.
It's been a pleasure and a privilege talking to you, Pankaj. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have been, thanks for watching. We have been in a delightful and an insightful conversation with the founder of People Strong and the co-founder of Carrot Capital and Tagged, Pankaj Bansal.
Thank you. Namaste. Have a great day.